today's episode of Relationships at Adenyke, we've had such an interesting time just talking about the principles of knowing yourself and loving yourself. This is a masterclass episode, and we have with us Juanita Ingram, who has just been fantastic as we just talked about the journey, both your journey, the journey most people have to go through. And, you know, we've talked about the fact that life is a process. You wear multiple hats, but it was a process to get here, and you wore those hats in different seasons. And, you know, just you were able to do that because you went through that process of knowing yourself, irrespective of the personal challenges, the setbacks that life throws at you. But I feel that then brings you to a place where, after all is said and done, you were able to find value in yourself and be able to start, you know, loving yourself. And, you know, when we talk about self-love, a lot of people think, well, that's vain, that's pride.
Selfish.
Or some people think selfish, or are you worshiping yourself now? Because we do know there's some people who are too much into themselves. But if we look at it from a healthy perspective, like you were talking about much earlier, it brings me to that notion of, can you really love yourself without creating some form of boundaries around your life, without having certain principles built around you to prevent others from walking into that space of your life, you know? So let's talk about creating personal boundaries in various aspects of life.
Yes, absolutely. I think that is so critical that you define those boundaries early on. Part of the process of defining who you are, what you value, will dictate the boundaries that you set up. And I think it's so important because, you know, when you get into unhealthy relationships or unhealthy boundaries, or the lack of boundaries, opens the door for unhealthy relationships.
Yes, it does.
And unhealthy, that could be romantic or friendship, because sometimes friendships get inappropriate as well. And, you know, you can have people in your lives that just don't respect the boundaries, and mainly because you haven't set any. And so before, you know, it's a part of the process of learning who you are, what you value, what you need in your life, what you will accept, setting a standard. I've had friends who were just, you know, friends, but the more I grew into understanding and appreciating who I am, what I want out of life, what I value, how I want to be treated, the better I treated myself, because the relationship with yourself dictates everything else with everyone else. I don't want to be dishonored. I don't accept dishonoring behavior. We can agree to disagree. That doesn't mean that I want everybody around me to agree with me or to see things the way I see them. But there's a respectful way to even disagree. I'm respectful to everybody else. I don't want dishonoring behavior. So when I receive that from other people, as I establish these boundaries over time, I had a choice to make, and I had to articulate very clearly, you know what? When you did X, Y, and Z, I found that a bit dishonoring. Not really receptive to that. I'd appreciate if you didn't do that again. Love you, want to be in your life, appreciate what you bring. I'm going to always respect you. I will never do this to you. I have to require that of myself, because I'm not dishonoring myself. You know, so I'm not dishonoring others. So I can set that standard. Now, once you set the standard and draw the line, you can't go back.
That's true.
You can't go back and like, okay, well, let me reset it again. I'll just give you another warning. No, this isn't, you know, you don't give 4 or 5 different verbal warnings, because people will only do what you let them do. You do have to train people how to treat you, but you train them because of how you treat yourself, how you treat others. And then once you find someone that just is constantly dishonoring you, you have to make the hard decision. And it doesn't have to be, you know, you see these memes out here like, you know, just X people out of your life and cut people off, and that sometimes that is necessary, but sometimes, you know, you can do a narrative or a conversation with someone. You know what? I think at this point in time, may the Lord watch over you and thee until we meet again. But action speaks louder than words. Because sometimes you don't have to say anything. You change your own behavior. It's not that you want to be rude or you want to be dishonoring to anyone. Be consistent with who you are. Don't have to take the phone call all the time.
That's right.
You can hang up when you know what? I need to go. Actions, you can show somebody better than you can tell them. And be consistent with what you value. And so I had one friend who was just constantly this whole berating thing, like, you this picture looks nice, but you look fat, or this picture, or yeah, that looks okay, but you don't look like a star. Yeah, that's all right, but I didn't like your hair. Man, look, I don't
need all of this.
I don't need all of
Yeah,
that. There's one thing for constructive criticism and valued feedback,
yes,
but it's a way to do everything, and you know when you're being dishonored or
yes,
not. And so I think it's so important, but again, it goes back to setting the value system for who you are, what the standards that you will accept, and being okay and giving yourself permission to be respected.
Yeah,
it starts with you.
It really does. It really does. When I look at it, and this is so prevalent in homes.
Yes.
I know there are parents watching.
Mm-hmm.
You have children. I actually feel that even in helping our children develop their self-esteem,
yes,
we, at times we want to pull our hair out, when they do certain things, but we've got to learn how to honor even our children.
Yes.
So they learn those skills as they grow up.
Yes.
And the ability to apologize, when we're wrong. Like you said, when you pick somebody up.
Yes.
Another way to draw a boundary is when you do say you've crossed the boundary, and they can say, I do apologize.
Yes.
That tells you a lot about that relationship.
Yes, it
so
does.
You would know if your relationship is healthy, because when you say that and they're like, what?
And
what's the big deal?
Yes. And they do, and I have had friends where I've had to have the same conversation. Like, you know what? That felt a little off to me.
Yeah.
There is a difference. There are people in my life, dear friends. You're not going to always agree. Yeah. Somebody may do something, and it even talks about in the Bible. In the last days, everybody will be offended.
Yeah.
Allowing offense to ruminate and not having the ability to say that was not my intent.
Yes.
I am sorry, but it takes a confident person in who they are to be able to say, I'm sorry.
That's right.
And sometimes you struggle with other people's insecurities and inability to apologize. You don't necessarily, even if you feel like, well, I don't feel like that was wrong, it's not about the intent, it's about the impact. If you are a person that is seeking to honor everyone and seeking to be respectful, if someone tells me, what you did I felt was disrespectful. Now, it may be their own stuff. That it happens. Yes, it may be that I didn't really do anything.
But they have...
Yes, it's their own stuff. But in that moment, if you can't bring yourself to say, you know what, even if you don't apologize, to say, that was not my intent. Yes. Let me explain to you what I meant by that, what my intent was. I apologize if that landed that way. It was not my intent.
Yes.
Even if you feel like that's ridiculous that landed that way, but you're right. It speaks to the nature of the relationship, and more so, how confident you are in the relationship you have with yourself.
That's true.
I know some people and have worked with some folks who can never be wrong.
Mm.
That's a very unhealthy place to be when you are so insecure that you can never be corrected, never have a teachable spirit, never be wrong, never value the opinions of other people.
I think I like the word you use. It's actually, you said you can be so insecure that you don't, because they don't realize they're showing everyone they're insecure.
Yes.
They feel they're showing they're authoritative,
yes,
intelligent,
yes,
knowledgeable. I know this. I can. But actually, you picked up on something very key, which goes back to they need a journey of some sort in self-care and
and building up the muscle of your confidence. I talk about in the book how you build real confidence is through experiences. It's a difference between self-esteem, which I don't really like that word, and self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is your ability to know that you can accomplish certain things, that you have capability. That feeds into confidence more than just thinking that you're great.
Right.
It's the proof that I can accomplish. And sometimes people don't have strong self-efficacy, and they feel threatened very easily.
I hear you. And if I can pivot a bit on this discussion of self-love, and a level of self-empowerment. I feel it's so important. I know one thing you talk about is just helping people also build a level of empowerment from a financial perspective.
Yes.
A lot of times, and I think although we're going to look at it very briefly from a financial perspective, it's much more about that purpose-driven whereby you are confident in who you are, and you can take the steps to ensure that you live a life whereby you're free from other people's expectations. You're financially free to be a blessing to other people. And now all of that is all part of self-love. And for a lot of people, that's an area that they struggle with, because they're not able to connect their purpose to their purpose, calling, empowerment, and ultimately, that sense of fulfillment. That it's not so much, when we talk about financial, it's not so much the amount of money, but it's the liberation and the freedom from having to depend on other people.
It's the relationship you have with money. If you always feel like there will never be enough, you're always in lack, those are the voices and the narrative that's repeating in your head, and you'll work hard, but you won't work smarter. You'll be fearful, you'll be afraid, and you'll operate in fear even as your relationship to money. And so therefore you will feel a need to put forth a certain image of success, an image of prosperity, so to speak. Maybe it's in, some people with name brands, and I'm not opposed. I love a good Chanel like the next girl. I love a good quality garment, but I do think that we have to be faithful to ourselves, even in the way that we approach finances, and stop trying to live up to the expectations of others and name brands and trying to put forth an image that may not be your authentic self at that moment financially. And living an authentic life and even lifestyle, and feeling confident enough to know it's okay if I don't own a Chanel bag. Who cares?
Right.
Doesn't define the level or worth of a person. Most billionaires do not own a watch that costs more than $100. That is the truth. And so sometimes we give an image of prosperity where people who are wealthy don't even operate that way. And we're so busy trying to impress other people and have a particular image. We are not being authentic and faithful to our financial situations. And I do talk about in the book about how to be fabulous, what that means, and fabulousness with frugality, and how to shop a little bit smarter. I give a little bit tips on that. But we all, it's part of the reason why I started Dress for Success here in London, and the charity that uses fashion to empower women. But you have to do it in a way that's smart for where you are at the time. And you can't go broke trying to look rich. That's just, but we will do it. And a lot of people will do that, and that's not authentic.
And I think the reason why it's so important to raise that is because of the culture that we're in. I know we'll deal with it, a bit more in our next, but the pressure that a lot of people, I'll be honest, we've all felt it to a certain extent.
Sure.
We have to be deliberate about reminding ourselves, because with social media, we get messages all day long as we have a phone with us. And it's so subtle that images are projected of success, of wealth, of finances, of worth, very subliminal. And it's important that we address it, that when it comes to loving yourself, you don't have to be bound by issues to do necessarily with your finances. It's important to be healthy with it, but you must ensure that it's from a place of freedom. And I think you've hit the right tones on that, but by the time we really look into what does it mean, I know you said, what does it mean to be fabulous? What does it mean to be faithful? And what does it mean to be free? I want to know what that means, because I want to be all three of those. So we'll be right back as we talk a bit more with Juanita. Stay tuned.